actually the way people looked at me, an organization, is Fatima, the Expo 2020.
Correct.
Fatima Alloghani, the ADCB, head of strategy. Fatima Alloghani, the group head of Emiratization of Majid Al Fatim. And that's the way doors opened. And it was not solely my network. That was the power of the brand I stood with. At the checkpoints in Iraq, they wouldn't know if I was a man or a woman. And they would be shouting at me to come down and to show the papers.
So they realize that.
Interestingly, every time I moved the helmet, and they would see the Sheila and the face, they would see a girl. And I start saying, yes, a girl. Crossing to Turkey was interesting because it was the most difficult 1,000 kilometers for me. I fell sick because no windshield. The helmet was broken. And I had to drive to Istanbul to get it fixed. So I was sick and fever the whole time. It was cold and raining. It was in April. And I go back and repeat, it was the most difficult 1,000 kilometer for me with the wind and everything else. However, I don't know how this would sound, but I really found God. Since I left college and I've been chasing titles, certificates, awards, claps, applause, thinking that this is the meaning of success. It took me actually 2 years and a pandemic to realize that there's a different type of happiness. And sometimes we chase things that people expect out of us, and they define our happiness by their perspective. And then you realize you've been chasing something that everybody else expected out of you. And the further you go with that, the farther you go from your real self.
Yeah.
So there what all this began.
I mean, but what triggered this realization? I mean, so the pandemic was a pivotal moment in so many people's lives, even in organizations. Companies shut down. There was the great resignation, whereby people said, why am I spending my whole life in this box, 8 to 5? You know, what's the point? There was this pursuit for meaning in life. Was there a specific event that pushed you towards this?
Yes. I'm not going to repeat the same pain point of a lot of people that went through the isolation for the first time ever, especially in the UAE. And as an Arab, we are social animals. And we are suddenly isolated from everybody else, especially our siblings and parents at that time. So apart from the pandemic and the isolation and being locked in, I unfortunately, and being isolated from an amazing project, which is the Expo 2020, you know, we went through a quite stressful time to delay the project and laying off people and so. I fell sick with many things wrong with my spine. So when you are isolated in a small space and you have stress all the time, unfortunately, it takes a toll on your body. In the past, I used to go out a lot. I used to train. So I had a quite good active life to compensate the stress with that. But in the pandemic, apparently, you forget. And there was one morning, a month later, where I could not wake up because I had this severe pain in my right hand, and I couldn't lift it anymore. I could not sleep. I could not get up. And I went and I was diagnosed with herniated discs in my C5 and C4, C5, and C7. I was operated for the first time. It didn't work. The second time, also it didn't work. I went through a lot of ups and downs trying to managing pain. And it's not nice for an active person suddenly to feel like you are crippled and you're struggling with that. So that was the thing that really happened. So 3 years of trying to go through therapy and fix it. I was told about this amazing Korean doctor in Korea, South Korea. So I flew in 2024. I saw the guy, gave me 2 injections, and the pain is suddenly disappeared. And when I went back to him to say thank you, he said, "You're going to come back next year." And I said, "Why? Does this the injections have a span or a time limit?" And he said, "No, because you will go back to the same stress, the same lifestyle you were going through, and the same thing will occur again."
Happening again. Yeah.
So the best advice he gave me, which was an eye-opener, that I really need to go and change my lifestyle. So as soon as I came back, I quit my job. And I decided to go for a sabbatical. I didn't know how long the sabbatical will go for, maybe 6 months or a year, because I doubted that I could stay without anything for a while.
Yeah.
So I did a few trips on my motorcycle, which I learned in recent years. And I love something called adventure motorcycle, which is for your audience. If they don't know, they are different than the show bikes. They are the big bikes with the 2 boxes at the back, and you go to mountains and you go to spend a lot of good time in the nature with them. But it's a bit dangerous sport, because if you fail, you break things.
Oh, we can see the results of that
Yeah.
of that on your wrist right there.
And it has nothing to do with speed. It has something to do with the
weight.
technique
Yeah.
and managing the bike itself.
Yeah.
So as early as this year, before we go to that, I could not, of course, stay away from work. So started my own company soon after, which is Born to Localize.
So even before we talk about Born to Localize, I'm still thinking about the words the doctor had mentioned to you, which is the fact that see you in a year if the habits don't change, if the behaviors don't change. But how easy was it to transition into new behaviors? Because this is something you had done throughout your whole life.
I invested in 4 different things. I never slept like the way I started sleeping. I always underrated sleeping, and I thought it's a waste of time. You sleep when you die.
Yeah, I used to say sleep is for the weak, but no, that is such a lie.
But then you realize getting enough hours of sleep every day, actually, it sustains you.
Correct.
So I started sleeping well. I regulated my time of waking up really, really early, like 5 o'clock or so, to begin my day. I also started spending time with myself. I've been always a social animal, talking to people, always making plans. And I couldn't sit still and be alone or
with your own thoughts.
With myself. And I don't know, it was like we have a big fear of being alone. So I tried to conquer that and spend time with myself. I have my own 3 to 4 hours routine in the morning, including sport, prayers, of course, sport. I started eating healthier. And I have realized that I started to begin to transform slowly. Of course, you fall into bad habits sometimes, and you neglect your routine. But as soon as I fall into my bad routine, I realize through the pain, of course, and sometimes mental stability, that I need to go back into that. Sleeping early as well really helped. So these are the things that I really did to gain the change. But it was not enough. There was always something more. I knew there is always something more. And there was like a calling, Obi. But I didn't know a calling for what. It was like a mission somewhere. But I didn't know where, when, and who.
So talking about that calling, because when I think about it, during the pandemic, I don't know if you were responding to the calling or you were trying to meet a need, because you started a venture during the pandemic. It was some kind of creative entrepreneurial drive. Was that a pursuit to just try something new, or was that you just, saying, listen, we need this, so let me meet a need? Was that your first entrepreneurial experiment, or was that?
It was. Going back. Actually, I remembered something when I'm talking to you. When I was 13, I remember I used to cut stickers and sell them in school. So if your name is OB and you want a sticker with the O, I create a nice O with the flame in it using specific materials from stationaries. And if you are an OB in love with the Katrina, I create an O plus love, the heart, and then the K beside it. And in school, for teenagers, it was quite popular So I was actually people over order because I don't have time to cope up with the thing. That was my first. And I used to have a lot of money and I used to stash them because I have a big family. So I have 20 siblings. Yeah. And I had to hide the money somewhere. So actually it started even earlier.
Yeah, that's the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes, but it did not continue. I got busy with my high school, so I had to really study. And money wasn't a thing at that time. So I had to kill that to focus on getting a good grade to get into a good university. But going back to Qinai, I had a best friend, or have a best friend in Denmark, and actually the whole idea came based on a conversation that I had with her. She had also part of that entrepreneurial thing, and then because of the expo and the calm down, I really needed to get busy. So what I have realized is people walk around with ugly masks. And you knowing me the way I used to be, little bit retaining that, I always loved looking good. Yes. And I thought maybe we could make the masks more beautiful, especially for ladies to wear them and feel okay to go out with. And nobody knew how long that would have taken. I went to Italy and I met an Italian gentleman who told me about this fabric and about this design company, which is an artisan and somewhere around Venice. And the whole idea started then. It did not continue because the pandemic...
thankfully.
Thankfully. You know, but it was a good learning for me to learn about the market and analysis and search engines and how to deploy social media and how to order and how to deliver also the masks and price it as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So did that experiment make it easier for you to transition, to make that decision when you realize that you can't continue the same way you had gone? Because I'm always interested to know what exactly was the impetus, what was the moving force that enabled people step out of their usual routine.
Yeah, some sort of the confidence that...
Exactly.
Yeah.
My father is a businessman. Okay. And he always told all of us, why do you work for people when you can work for yourself? So he actually was always urging all of us to consider a business idea or partner with him. And I couldn't partner with my dad because he will kill me or I will kill him. He's dead now, but we were extremely in love, but also there was a lot of heat between him and I, and it was not possible for me to work with him or for him. Yeah. So I always felt very comfortable working for a corporation, stability of getting income, titles, awards. Really attracted me at that time.
That's what social community, people around you, everyone.
You get affirmation, by that.
It's a program. You kind of finish the school, you study, get a degree, then grow in a professional career, achieve something. Otherwise, you are kind of, what you're doing, just running around the entire day?
Yeah, but also this is our comfort zone. This is what if you've been doing this for the past few years, I think it takes a big courage to get out from that zone. But going back to Qinai, it was an adventure, I think. And I had to go back to the expo to finish the job. So it faded then, but it gave me a lot of excitement. When the project was happening, running, I was not sleeping, really. Even at that time when I was diagnosed with issues with my spine, I still got up and did emails and made calls.
When I think about the company you founded, Born to Localize, it's probably the only organization that has a mission in the definition of the organization. You know, Born to Localize, like the purpose, it's named by the purpose, the sense of purpose. And I think people need more of that. So do you think that sense of mission, sense of purpose is what is missing nowadays, or what drives people?
So, Obi, you work, right?
Yeah.
You're defined by your job description.
Your
capabilities are limited to the capability of the organization you operate from.
Yes and no.
The purpose is driven by the job role.
So that's something that is probably unique about me when I speak with colleagues or speak with people in the professional sphere, which that is very little I do. I try to compartmentalize what I do from who I am as an individual.
But I think you're an exception, because most of the people who work for the corporates, they are limited by the box in which they are. So they can't utilize their potential or their talent or aspiration that they have to do the thing.
And it's never your mission. It's mission you attach yourself to.
Correct.
So you fall in love with the company's mission. You're limited by your job title, specific capability of people around you, limitation of the job, and the entire capability of an organization you work under. I mastered something called Emiratization throughout the expo. So I am a little bit confident. I don't want to sound really, I don't know what's the word for it, but there's not a lot of people who have undergone similar use cases of creating a strategy of localization.
Hey, it's okay to blow your trumpet. It's okay to,
So I managed to see for the first time ever throughout the expo, how does really a complete program work when you want to include a specific kind of people. And I replicated it with an inclusion program was also for the expo. I have never dealt with people of determination before. So that was a second success. And I felt suddenly that I found it. And then I managed to work with the banking sector, and I put the first strategy because the framework of the bank is a little bit different than the expo. The expo did not have any framework nor push from an entity. We were driven, or the localization was driven by a mission created within, which is leadership really wanted a legacy after the expo to retain when the other talent or the nomads of the World Expos and mega events really transit to their next project. The central bank have a more strong and well-established point system. So that was really good to see. And again, we talk about strategy of Emiratization, which is not a lot of people in this part of the world really familiarized with. Everybody thinks the strategy is a big word for such an initiative. And a lot of people mistaking strategy for a plan. So they're used to Emiratization plan, but strategy, it's a bit weird. So I walk in and I get attracted by Majid Al Fatim company, who committed to hire 3,000 Emiratis with Nafis launch in 2021. And it's a massive number. So I was drooling over that project. So it was an amazing 2 years with Majid Al Fatim, putting in their first group Emiratization strategy across 7 different verticals. And when I left, they were above 2,500. And by the end of 2024, last year, apparently I heard them celebrating their 3,000 before even 2026.
Exactly.
Amazing. So that was great to see. So when we talk about born to localize, in my first meeting, I was a bit overconfident. I said, "Oh my God, I'm the only unique one that have that, ability to, with a track record, to put a whole strategy together. And I have a strong track record of mega event, a banking sector, and now Nafis." And that made me a kind of like specialized in the area. Okay. And I remember the first meeting I go to a VIP, like a ministry level. And in the first 15 minutes when I was trying to pitch for my business, the lady told me, "You're nothing without the brands you served."
You're nothing without the brands you served.
So actually the way people looked at me, an organization, is Fatima, the Expo 2020.
Correct.
Fatima Alloghani, the ADCB, head of strategy. Fatima Alloghani, the group head of Emiratization of Majid Al Fatim. And that's the way doors opened. And it was not solely my network. That was the power of the brand I stood with. And now, with Born to Localize, nobody knows what Born to Localize. She was absolutely right. It hurts. And I went home thinking for weeks about what am I going to do? And how difficult this trip looked like. I maybe was overconfident opening a business at this time. And the further I wanted to chase my network of VIPs to sell them the idea, expect them maybe to give me a push or to give me a head start, I've realized everybody was just looking the other way. So in the past, I used to pick up the phone and I say, my name is Fatima Alloghani. I'm the head of the Expo Academy, Expo 2020. Doors just opened.
Because of the last aspect of your statement,
yes,
Expo 2020.
Who are you?
Yeah.
And then I remember a point where I was doing an evaluation for the central bank, the framework of Emiratization, because in the UAE, we have different systems. So the bank have their own point system, NAFIS have its own system, the local government have their own system. The federal government as well imposed different systems. So I really wanted to learn more, and I called the central bank. And I called the VIP in the central bank, connected through LinkedIn. And then I asked the question, can I interview someone, because I'm doing an evaluation for the collective framework that the UAE operate with when it comes to localization. And he told me, who are you? From which perspective, what capacity? And I said, I am the owner of Born to Localize.
CEO Born to Localize, yeah.
What is Born to Localize? And he said, okay, leave your number and I will try to get someone to speak to you. I never heard from that person anymore. Although he knows my track records from LinkedIn, of course, but I was standing behind a newly put company. However, what I started really doing is chill back a little bit, focus on my mental health, absorb the reality, pause, because usually we tend not to pause. We keep running and finding solutions, and that's the way we are programmed. And you create a lot of anxiety, and there where your issues start. So I paused little bit, and I started investing in creating awareness. So I did a lot of videos, I write a lot of articles, I talk to companies without expecting them to give me the business. It's just simply to tell companies, you could do better. And instead of just hiring Emiratis, you could do better. Of being authentic, integrated better to your businesses, and it's still taking time. So I spent, I don't know if it's okay to say it, but over $500,000 dirhams just on media, and trying to educate people about the importance of having a strategy for inclusion and having an Emiratization to play a part in it. And how do you retain your Emiratis after? Everybody was running after hiring the number, and they think Emiratization is all about the number of Emiratis I hire and the amount of fine that I could avoid. But they always end up with the same mistake.
Based on the quota.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they always fall into the mistake of
the same
not being able to retain them because they leave.
Yeah.
And believe me or not, in big companies, I've seen attrition goes massively over 50, 60, 70%. Really. So you imagine the force and the power of companies really stupidly go hire and replace, go hire and replace. And I remember this, and I can never forget it. When I went to a chief of HR on one of the companies, and I said, do you know that our attrition over hire is 60%? And what he says is, go refill. Fatima, that's why we hired you. You have the power, a massive power of hiring in mass. Go refill. And I said, I'm sorry, my people are not Coca-Cola to refill.
Yeah. Just open the funnel.
We need to find out why they're leaving.
Correct.
And
hence the emphasis on his strategy, is all encompassing. It's not just about getting the people. So how do we retain the people in there? Very interesting.
So even with having a great mission that you've been following with the company that you've been opening, you've still needed to invest quite a lot to show your value that you can provide. And I totally agree. The number is the easiest part to measure because we always measure by the numbers, like how many Emiratis you have in the company and how many left, etc. But you had a mission, right?
Correct, but it was
without awareness. Your mission wasn't kind of visible.
I think sometimes organizations are very much like people. They're lazy. They just want to do the quick ones, cut corners, and not to bother themselves about the big picture. Yeah. And this is what I have. They look for a quick win. The next award by NAFIS or whatsoever, but we will deal with the problem a year after. So organization is not very different than human beings, running after short gains on short terms instead of long term. I have been exhausted attending meetings, educating people about solutions, writing proposals that I don't get reply to. And then you realize people stack on your ideas and they try it internally. People take your proposal and they integrate it to their internal presentation for their own success.
But it's not necessarily that they succeeded with them. They've mentioned, they've included, they've presented, but the result might be different.
I agree. And that's where I say I do not mind sharing my expertise in meetings and in proposals. But I started to become a bit careful, asking for an NDA if it was a big project.
Absolutely.
Some companies hesitate to sign an NDA, but God knows what happens in. And sometimes you see people taking your proposal, scoping it differently, and putting it out for the lower bidder.
Yeah. I mean, I saw something recently. This lady, a thought leader, was literally, I think she had sued a company for a proposal she had put out there. The company did the same thing, branded it, added their details. It's verbatim what she had shared with them, which they rejected or said, no, it has to be free service. You're just up and coming. And then years later, they use that. Has that been the most difficult part of going out independently? Because they can do this with an up-and-coming organization. They will not do this with a PwC or a very known brand. Is that one of the challenges you faced?
Yes, but also the funny part is because you are subject matter expert, you see big companies, consulting companies, without mentioning names, looking to have a conversation with me to set the strategy and the programs for them. So organizations don't come and hire Fatima Alloghani and Born to Localize, but they go to big firms, and big firms come to Fatima Alloghani, Born to Localize, to look stronger and more confident in their proposition to big organizations. And I would laugh, but I would say it's all right, because I try to have a conversation with them and offer them to do the strategy maybe a little bit cheaper, or work on the current one and maybe tweak it a little bit, or even assess it and tell them what's wrong. But they would rather go with big companies and give them the
contracts, and then they subcontract it to...
Yes, and they come and subcontract me to deliver on their for them. So that was really funny to see.
Yeah. And so Born to Localize has been a venture, and I'm sure that's a journey you're still going through. I'm sure it's getting more and more stable.
Born to Write.
Born to Localize.
Born
to Write. Yeah, and then now we have Born to Write.
Topic,
because I look at you and I'm like, realizing that individuals have different chapters, and the earlier you're willing to, I guess, open the door to the next chapter, the better for you, because we're not going to live forever, so there you are, transitioning from being in corporate to having your own thing. And then now we see a Fatima who's also born to ride.
To ride, yes.
I've seen the social Fatima, the networker, the public speaker, but I never would have imagined you on a bike, doing the amazing things that you're doing right now.
And you know that I love dancing, so I did that for 20 years.
I've seen Fatima dance exactly as well, yeah.
So jumping from dancing floors all the way to an
riding
aggressive
roads.
sport like adventure motorcycles.
What happened?
Well, like I rightly said, you fell sick and you test people around you. You realize at some point of time that you are all alone. You're there for everybody else, and you're not really good in asking for help. And you end up alone, in pain. When I started Born to Localize, I decided that I'm going to pause and calm down a little bit and work on my self-balance. And remember, I quit my job to take a sabbatical leave to focus on my own inner self and health and finding out what are these voices are calling me to go to places. So early this year, I decided to run the campaign and the awareness and calm a little bit and pause and go on this self-finding journey. At the beginning of riding motorcycles, it was like fun, escape, and getting away from stress and maybe overthinking over things. And slowly, I have realized the more I spent time with myself, the more I started learning about who I am. And then you go through a rush of memories and experiences you have with people, and painful moments and joyful moments sometimes. And you start analyzing. And then on the motorcycle, it's only you and the motorcycle and the wind and the nature. There are no conversation, no calls, no distractions. And remember, it's not a sport bike. So It's not about speed. It's about the sceneries.
The journey.
And the journey, the scenery, the serenity. And I started really hearing myself.
It's one of the joys I have when I go on my long zone 2 cycling rides, because I have to just go out for 2-3 hours and just ride. And at that point in time, you're just there in your own space.
Consumed by yourself.
And suddenly you have that time to just, because what are you going to do for 2 hours, 3 hours? And you just find yourself meditating, reflecting, thinking, and all that.
Yeah.
Imagine that. So Fatima, the bee, who never stopped. I used to be called the bunny, the Energizer bunny.
Buzzing around, yeah.
Because I could not sit still. Ended up realizing that there is something in the void, something in the silence, something in the echoes. These are voices coming from somewhere, and I've been always silencing them. And therefore, I decided early this year in February to take my bike and go on a solo trip from Dubai all the way to Iraq, which evolved later to Croatia, and from Croatia evolved all the way to Europe.
Wow.
My daughter was concerned, so she was my first supporter ever, because they saw how happy I become when I come back from a bike ride. And then it was for the first time ever, I'm going to cross all the way to Iraq, leaving the comfort zone of the GCC.
What was the journey to Iraq? So you go from...
So it's Dubai, it's from the UAE to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and then you enter Iraq. So the Gulf states weren't very interesting. It was not a real adventure for me because it was a comfort zone. I felt safe anywhere around there because I used to ride to Oman, for example, and I rode to Bahrain last year. So it was getting out from that comfort zone and discovering more. So my daughter was concerned about this trip, and I remember telling her things that I never thought about. I told her, if I didn't do this, I'll be failing myself. And I don't want to let myself down. I don't know what it is, but there is something. And when I went through this trip, I have realized how difficult it is to travel alone and sort everything yourself. And you go through stressful moments with the weather or with the phone connection or with the petrol. There were a few moments. And you tell yourself, what the hell am I doing here? Maybe I should go back. And you have this old self of that pulling you back to your safety
comfort zone,
telling you, go back, open the TV on YouTube, watch a podcast, Netflix, under the AC. What the hell are you doing out here in the wind and in the sun heat and being alone? And shit could happen. And when I entered Iraq, it was like something strange for everybody else around me, but for me it was every time I crossed border, it was like a success, let alone spending time with myself. So Iraq was not easy. The roads weren't easy. Entering Baghdad, Basra was not easy, especially on a bike. But people were amazing, surprisingly amazing.
Supportive?
They were surprised to see an Emirati woman alone on a bike. So some of them at certain checkpoints will ask me, where are you from and where are the rest of you? Like some group is coming behind you or you missed a group of bikers. They used to see people in groups, let alone a lady on a bike. And when you ride an adventure bike, there is not much of sexiness on the way we dress. So it's not like this vulgar and sometimes sexy-looking chick on a bike that the Western and the American sport.
Yeah, the Western, it looks quite good. Yeah.
It's actually, you feel like you are what, you go into a war and everything is puffed and protected. And most of the times at the checkpoints in Iraq, they wouldn't know if I was a man or a woman. And they would be shouting at me to come down and to show the papers.
So they realize that.
Interestingly, every time I moved the helmet and they would see the Sheila and the face, they would see a girl. And I start saying, yes, a girl. And then that was it. So I started really enjoying myself on the road, taking the adventure as it comes. I had an accident trying to exit Iraq in Zaho. I broke the windshield, hurt my hand quite bad. And when I tried to bring the bike back, there were a few people convincing me to rest, maybe call an ambulance. And I said, no, I'm going to continue the road. And some people said it's not going to work after this fall because it was a bad fall. But adventure motorcycle, they're built for bad falls. So I bring the bike back, and they were challenging me that I'm not going to be able to run it. And I said, it will run. And then I put it on, and I just continued. And on the way, I started realizing, what if I had internal bleeding? What if I really drop dead now? What if I faint? And I started having all these ideas coming into it. Crossing to Turkey was interesting because it was the most difficult 1,000 kilometers for me. I fell sick because no windshield. The helmet was broken. And I had to drive to Istanbul to get it fixed. So I was sick and fever the whole time. It was cold and raining. It was in April. And I go back and repeat, it was the most difficult 1,000 kilometer for me with the wind and everything else. However, I don't know how this would sound, but I really found God at that time. I found myself on the bike, enduring and looking up and having a conversation with Allah. And I was saying with tears, I have no idea, God, where you're taking me to. And maybe I don't survive the coming challenge. But I trust that you love me and you're taking me to somewhere that will make me stronger. Maybe brighter future. I know you love me, and I know you're dragging me to somewhere that's good for me.
Interesting.
And the fact comes after, because there is a video that was taken in Iraq, in Erbil, that became viral and popular. And here
video
we go.
Of yours.
Yes, of myself being interviewed. And here you go. Born to Ride, that UAE is quite famous and known.
I'm having goosebumps now.
Yeah. Oh, does it exist? Born to Ride?
Born to Ride, that UAE. If you go to my Instagram, interestingly, my entire content is in Arabic. And it's simply because when I was first interviewed in a podcast when I came back from Iraq by a biker, a bike community, a specialized podcast for bikers. It's called Al Bike. The gentleman I really trust, and a friend of mine right now that was running that podcast, told me, you cannot stop now. And therefore, I established an Instagram account in March. And I started posting my journey because he said, it's not your story anymore. It's everybody else's story, what you go through, especially women.
Yeah, now you're inspiration.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then it took me 3 weeks to be convinced. I started getting really calls from newspapers and TV to have a conversation about this audacity of mine. The comments on the social media at the beginning, they were 40% hate.
Why is she out
skeptical,
there? Okay.
And there was many hurtful comments. And I couldn't sleep because I didn't know why people are attacking me like that for something that I did, and should I continue or not. But I got people asking me to continue because if you want to be a public figure, if you want to have an influence, you have to endure this. The biggest risk ever was before I come into a national TV, I had to have a conversation with my family because they had no idea that I did this, and they had no idea that there is a video somewhere about me entering Iraq. And my older brother probably didn't even know that I rode a motorcycle. So that was a tough conversation I should have had. And I remember the minute I picked up the phone to call him because I didn't want him to know it from the outside. He spent 30 minutes. He's 10 years older than me. I have greatest respect for him. We never had a conversation serious like this. And he crucified me for 30 minutes. Thinking about all the bad possibilities that could have happened on the road, motorcycle alone, and crossing Iraq. A week later, I asked him to calm down, and I had a conversation with him, and I said, I'm passionate about it. It served me. It helped me. And the motorcycle, how much do you know about motorcycle? Because everybody thinks motorcycle, women on a bike, you say how it's portrayed. And I started explaining to him, it's an adventure. There is nothing, shameful about the dress or revealing. I kept my shela actually for the first time ever in this trip. Really.
But
because
now, sorry.
because to wander free, at the beginning I really wanted it to protect me crossing all these borders, and I believe strongly the shela protects. I also thought that it would be fair to introduce Emirati women on a motorcycle across all these countries that have perspective about the UAE and the Arab world with the proper attire, so they know we're empowered, we're free to have hobbies and to travel, provided that we're retaining. But lastly, I've realized it's beautiful to encourage people, let alone women, to extend their freedom in whatever they really choose to do for their lives beyond tradition, provided that they have to find ground rules. And for me, my prayers, my identity with the shela, and the way I carry tradition really helped me to be grounded. Because imagine, Obi, you become like a balloon, free balloon traveling everywhere.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to tell you. This sport served you, but now you are serving Allah by being an example and inspiration for other Emirati women.
That's a very strong statement, and I'm not sure about it, because sometimes it's your story. It's your
but now
own
it's
story.
More than you. It's more than you. Now the people following you, they see what you do, and they get empowered. They get empowered that if you can do it, then they can do it as well. Why not?
Do you believe me if I tell you that for my entire life I was away from my community? I chose a completely different lifestyle than Emiratis, let alone Emirati women. And for the first time ever in my life, I felt closest than ever to the community today and this year, only after this trip. My followers are 90% males versus females. And most of them, after started hearing me talking in the news about why did I do this trip and how did I really retain my identity within my religion and tradition and Emirati thing, and the track record, of course, I'm not a woman that decided to wander on a bike. I have a track record of serving my country in many different ways, and I stand for a mission. So they started understanding the lady behind the helmet is someone, and someone went through a rough time. They started really becoming really encouraging. When I fell on the bike, it's been 2 months now, and I get a lot of people checking on me every day. Really, like people from this region, Arab, checking on me, encouraging me, asking me to get better, to get back on the bike and my adventure again.
Yeah.
Where at the beginning, 40% of them were saying, "Are you crazy? What are you doing? You're shaming us."
If I get back full circle to how we got to this point, so there you have Fatima in this organization, 8 to 5, the corporate example, and then you had this health scare, which made you pause and think about, what am I doing? Think about purpose, think about yourself, and the opportunity to pause and really have your own time with yourself. And that has led to today. You're not just born to localize, you're born to ride.
Yeah.
You're an example, a mentor. I know it sounds like a huge responsibility, but think about individuals who you are hiring every single day, who you're building strategies for to join organizations. And do you think more of us should probably find that alone time? Like, what is the hope, or what do more people need to do? A few months ago, we had a chat with Asma, who took a pause for a year. She went to South America with a family, and she encourages people to take more gap years. So is that a new in thing?
The question that I keep asking people now when I have a conversation with them about, what do you think you're worth?
What do you think you're worth?
You're worth without the materials you surround yourself with,
The
family name, the title, the car you ride, the salary or the income that you have, the money in the bank, who you really are. That's a great question. Regardless of however wanted and what age what people wanted to take this question seriously and wander in their own journeys and afford to go and do or take a risk like I really did, there is some kind of truth about self that we were never taught. And nobody really tell you who you really are. You have to find out who you really are without all this programming and mess this world put you through.
This is so deep.
We're here on the podcast on the Impact Nexus, but I guess this is the first question we need to ask ourselves, because that sits at the foundation of impact. Who are you really? Because a lot of people we're speaking to, professionals, make impact by definition of what they do.
The expertise.
Their expertise, exactly, which may or may not be who they are. Each person has their own story. And
I am not the expert here, but I can really say that most of us, we have fear of being alone. So that's trigger number one. We surround ourselves with entertainment.
Activities.
And sometimes introverted people just sit and watch podcasts, watch movies, but they never sit in silence. Retreats are amazing. You get a lot of people get scared from retreats, the silence retreats. I never went to one, but I consider the journey that I went through is one of them. It takes a lot of courage to face the void and listen to yourselves. So I believe if people started spending time with themselves instead of spending time with everything else except themselves, that could be a great beginning. Life balance is quite important. We get dragged into finding happiness by tearing ourselves into different directions, looking for happiness and a praise, and a trophy somewhere, or a job title, or a salary increase. Defining our happiness by what people say about us and what they think about us. But we actually don't love ourselves to the extent that we look after ourselves when it comes to mental health, eating well and sleeping well, and balancing everything else we do around us.
This is probably the most important conversation we've had on the Impact Nexus. We've had some phenomenal conversations. But when you talk about impact and you talk about self and individuals, this is where the conversation starts from. And I'm so glad we're having this now. We always ask individuals, what is their formula for making an impact? But the entire conversation has been you taking us through a formula. Do you see yourself as a mentor, role model? Is that too much of a responsibility? Like in this space you are in right now, born to ride, and the attention you've gotten, how does that make you feel? Or do you still just want to do your thing in your own space and you're just on your own journey?
In the past, Obi, you know me best. I used to help and mentor, and it excites me actually to do some good for people, especially developing youth or helping people to speak up as a Toastmaster. But recently I have realized I feel so good being in my space, doing my own things, and sharing it with people. And if it sounds good for you, sounds good for you. If it doesn't sound good for you, be it. A lot of followers in my social media have suggestions about how can I improve followers, what kind of content I can create to entertain them further. And I found myself saying, no.
I'm not entertaining.
It's my experience, and this is the fact, and I'm going to be authentic, and I'm not going to compromise it ever. So if it's not going to get me more followers and people are not going to like a lot what I do, it's their prerogative, not mine. I'm going to keep it authentic as I go, and I'm not really chasing followers.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank
you for coming and sharing your story. This is so impactful. And as Obi said, we're so happy to have you now with such a great message.
And I'm so glad I'm doing this with Obi, because if you can imagine, he called me today, asked me for a podcast, and I said, what time, where?
4 p.m.
And now I'm here. It's Obi magic.
No, it's Fatima's magic. Such a pleasure having you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's good to see you again.